Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Judge rules soldiers implicated in Keith Clarke murder have no case to answer. Police officers involved in fatal shooting of 3 men in East Kingston over the weekend detained. And later in sports, Reggae boys confident ahead of Nations League game against USA tonight. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kerry-Ann Simpson. Here are the details. High Court Judge Justice Dale Palmer has ruled that the 3 soldiers charged in connection with the May 2010 shooting death of businessman Keith Clarke have no case to answer. Lance Corporals Craig Tingling, Odell Buckley and Private Arnold Henry have been on trial since May. Justice Palmer is to inform the jurors of his decision. O'Shane Masters has our first story.
On Monday, the defense lawyers presented their no-case submissions in the absence of a jury, with the prosecution offering its responses. Mr. Clarke, a 64-year-old accountant, was shot multiple times inside the master bedroom of his Kirkland Close home on May 27, 2010, during a police military operation to apprehend then-fugitive drug lord Christopher Duduscoke. Dr. Dinesh Rao, the former chief forensic pathologist in the legal medicine unit at the National Security Ministry, testified during the trial that Clarke sustained 25 gunshot wounds. He noted that 16 of these shots were to Clarke's lower back, while the other injuries included gunshot wounds to his face, chest, and forearm. The forensic pathologist explained that Clarke died from a traumatic shock caused by extensive damage to his lungs, heart, intestines, and kidneys, resulting from multiple gunshots to his back. Rao also supported the account given by Clarke's relatives that he was shot while climbing down from a closet with his back towards security forces personnel who had entered his home. Mr. Clarke's widow and daughter had also insisted that they were home alone with the businessman when they heard strange sounds and thought criminals were breaking into the house. However, testimony from a former government forensic analyst contradicted the family's account. The analyst stated that Clarke was likely shot while inside the closet in the master bedroom, rather than while descending from it. She also refuted the idea that Clarke was shot at the window, as claimed by his daughter, as she found no blood spatter on the window or surrounding walls. She also could not recall seeing a curtain and whether it had blood marks, but was certain that there were no blood stains or spatter on the window. The court was told that it was likely that Clarke was shot while positioned at the left side of the closet, based on the blood spatter captured in a photograph she was shown. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Meanwhile, the Jamaica Defense Force JDF says it stands with the soldiers following their exoneration by the courts after 14 years. In a release this morning, the JDF said the verdict brings relief to the service members who now can reclaim their freedom, rebuild their lives, and return to their families without the burden of litigation. It further noted that despite the challenges faced over the years, it appreciates the justice system's fair assessment of the evidence. The Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Olympic Gardens Division, Christopher Townsend, is dead. Party officials have confirmed that he suffered a heart attack last night. JLP Deputy Leader Desmond McKenzie, in expressing sadness at Mr. Townsend's passing, in a statement said he provided critical support to the Member of Parliament for West Central St. Andrew, Prime Minister Andrew Holness. He further described Councillor Townsend as an outstanding representative who was fiercely dedicated to service and advancing the interest of the people he served. His death brings to 3 the number of sitting councillors who've died so far this year. The Police High Command has ordered the detention of the police officers involved in the fatal shooting of 3 men in East Kingston over the weekend. According to reports, the police officers were on patrol when they encountered the group of men along Wynwood Road. It's reported that during the encounter, gunfire was exchanged, resulting in the death of the 3 men, while a member of the police team received injuries. It further reported that 2 illegal firearms were recovered. According to the JCF, the men will be on detention until the Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, conducts its investigation. As part of efforts to address the issue of gangs in schools, the Ministry of Education's Safety and Security in Schools unit, in collaboration with key stakeholders, kicked off its anti-gang week of activities across the island. The annual initiative is aimed at fostering a collective response to the growing concern of gangs in schools. Speaking at a town hall meeting at Mount Alvernia High in St. James last evening, Director of the unit, Richard Troop, said the ministry remains committed to rooting out violence from the nation's schools.
It will not change in 1 year. Our commitment of staging this week of activity every year is a reflection, is a demonstration of our commitment to continue to work towards this particular goal of removing gangs from our school.
Acting Commissioner of Police for Area 1, Glenford Miller, said the police have been doing everything in its power to tackle the issue. However, more partnerships are needed.
We need better partnership from everyone. That is where we need to start from the police perspective. And as I would have said, none of us sitting here and you here and those online can do it alone.
7 children are among 30 people left homeless after fire gutted their dwellings at Ajit Lane in St. James Wednesday morning. According to the residents, the fire started shortly after 2 a.m. and quickly engulfed 12 and 4-board structures. No one was injured in the blaze.
I hear somebody say fire, and I pull the door. I heat. I'm gonna grab my kids them and my ID and TR and I'm running through back. I went into the lane and I said somebody call the fire truck. Fire truck takes so long to come. When they come, everything burn out. Everything. Every single thing. Then I come, they can't save nothing at all. When they come, everything done.
Paul Williams, whose house was damaged in the ordeal, says he is now focused on picking up the pieces.
For right now, at Christmas, I mean, me call my daughter them to get some money right now and see there. Them me just got here from them, I don't see them yet. So me have to look something for done to the place. I be in a bad condition, all the pipe them burn up. Yeah, everything burn up.
Work has begun in Westmoreland Western under the highly anticipated Road Rehab Reach program. The $3 billion program will tackle critical road infrastructure with a specific focus on damage caused by recent weather events. Moreland Wilson is the Member of Parliament.
Reach. So the Reach program has started. We are here in Negril on the boulevard famously called the Beach Road, where we have workmen here patching out the roadway. We would have seen over the past couple months where the roadway has deteriorated. There is a bigger program for the Beach Road, and I should add that under the Spark program, we have over 100 million that will be spent on rehabilitation of the entire Beach Road from the roundabout to parish border. That program is coming, but in the interim, in the short-term measures, we are here just to take out those potholes that are on the road so the road can be a bit more drivable.
It's time for a break. Stay with us, more local stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Despite word from Minister with responsibility for works Robert Morgan about the Silo Main Road in St. Elizabeth, residents this morning blocked the main road in the community. But not only was the main road blocked, but also alternative routes. They say they are frustrated with the lack of representation. The roadway collapsed last week during heavy rains caused by Tropical Storm Raphael. When our news team arrived, there were no protesters on location, only the evidence that they were there earlier. Police personnel, however, were able to clear sections of the blockage to allow for single-lane traffic. Meanwhile, Minister Morgan, in a story we aired yesterday, said that an assessment has already been carried out and the necessary works will be done shortly. In the meantime, there was another protest yesterday where potholes where potholes as wide as the size of some swimming pools were shown to us in northwest St. Elizabeth. Those constituents, like the residents in Silo, are calling for better representation.
We don't really tell that JC, you know. You know, tell that the people them around JC, because them are corrupt him. You see people them around JC, and them are corruption. We don't really tired of him. But you see people them are corrupt him. It's where if you do, where people them are say to him, make him not do it.
But the roadway is not the only issue.
We have a good up bathroom if we can't go show you know. Nice shower and we can't get water with shower night. No right. But you see JC followers them and them my problem. And them a cause all of it. If one load of malls, we drop you here that when I say can't. If you are PMP, he can't drop again.
If they ever get tea,
it get full.
they can't go their yard. Go drop tea.
And left the district
and
here.
left the road tea and
we. And it can't go so.
It's time now for the Business Minute.
The Finance Ministry says the country's fiscal deficit was running at $54.57 billion, or at 1.67% of gross domestic product GDP during the period April to September, lower than the 2.2% of GDP, which it should have been. The fiscal deficit is the difference between what the government collects in revenue and grants and what it spends. Meanwhile, it notes that the capital budget, or the amount of money allocated for infrastructure development, was cut to $24.72 billion for the same period. This is $4.4 billion less than the $29.17 billion budgeted, while the primary balance was $36.17 billion. Further afield, time has run out for Meta to avoid the courtroom. A federal judge denied the social media giant's request for summary judgment in the government's monopoly case against it on Wednesday. This comes after years of wrangling by the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, including a false start in 2020 that was ultimately dismissed. The agency then filed the case again under the Biden administration. Now, the FTC is seeking to break up Meta, while Meta claims its stake in the social media market isn't as massive as it once was. For the Business Minute, I'm Shane Masters.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Tropical Depression 19 has developed in the Caribbean. The National Hurricane Center says the system is forecast to strengthen into Tropical Storm Sarah by Thursday afternoon. The storm is expected to cause life-threatening flash flooding across portions of Honduras through the weekend. By early next week, 19 could move across Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula. The National Hurricane Center warns that the path and strength of the system is still uncertain. On the international scene, Donald Trump has made more key appointments as he prepares for his White House return in January. Congressman Matt Gaetz is named as Attorney General, an announcement greeted with some shock in Washington. Marco Rubio will be his Secretary of State, while Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democrat, is chosen as Director of National Intelligence. And the U.S. says it intends to bolster military support to Ukraine in the final months of the current administration. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken made the announcement on Wednesday after Russia launched a sophisticated missile and drone attack on Kyiv. Mr. Blinken said the U.S. will continue to shore up Ukraine to ensure it can effectively defend itself against continued Russian aggression. Without elaborating, he warned that North Korea's decision to send its troops into combat operations alongside Russian forces demands and will be met with a firm response. And those are the top regional and international stories.
And we take another break. When we come back, we'll have your Midday Sports Report.